Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Friday, December 27th, 2019. Want to say a special hello to Jake Murphy out there. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's get right into it with some space weather news. Our solar wind speeds coming in at 361.1 kilometers per second, which is relatively low, not super low, but it is low. 5.1 is our density right now, solar stream. And still dealing with the sunspot right there directly in front of you, folks. That's AR 2753. And we'll take a look at the actual sunspot here over at the grandsolarminimum.com. Kind of give you a better idea of what we're looking at. This is the sunspot, excuse me, that broke the 40-day streak of 0 sunspots reported in a row. This is AR 2753. It is sunspot number 11. That's a small sunspot. And right now we are sitting at 277 days without sunspots in 2019. Now, a couple of us, myself and Spike 12, predicted 277 would be the total for 2019. Right now, we would have to see this sunspot remain active for the next 4 days after today to actually meet that. So kind of surprised that we're even in this position because we hadn't seen a sunspot in 40 days. And then boom, here we are at AR 2753. And it looks like at this point, by the time we get around to 4 days, if it's still a sunspot, it's still going to be Earth facing, moving away towards the western limb. So there is a chance that we could see this be the actual count for the year on spotless days at 277. And then most definitely we'll probably start off January spotless. And I want to mention something too about January. Right now, and I've seen this a lot on the internet and various other spots, but Earth is going to be its closest approach towards the sun on January 5th on the tilt, if I'm not mistaken. After that, we begin to move away from the sun. So for those of you who are worried about winter not arriving, there are a lot of factors that are going to come together here in January that we're going to see a lot more colder air in the northern hemisphere, a lot more snow. And like I said, there's so many cycles that are intermixing with each other right now. And it just so happens to be that after January 5th, Earth will no longer be at its closest approach towards the sun. Now, this could be the makings of an extended winter already just by natural orbits. So stay tuned, folks, as a lot of this mild air that we're seeing right now across the United States and Europe, things could get a little bit different here in the near future. But let's continue on with our space weather news section. We'll move on to some headlines and talk about some weather out there. This is a look at our star. That is the sunspot. Back here is the eastern limb that is not approached yet. And we have nothing to report, folks. So once this sunspot turns away from the center portion of the disk right now, it's very possible from January through the month of January, we could start a new streak of spotless days in the 30s or even higher. So... And also, with that being said, I know a couple of broadcasts ago, it's been probably 40 days without sunspots a few different times during the space age. But Adapt 2030 had a chart that he put up on his community post. Guys, go check that out. It gives us a list of how many spotless days that actually happened in a row with the years and the dates. Some of these going back as far as the Dalton minimum, where they had somewhere around 91 days without sunspots. Now, obviously, the way we keep track of data now is a lot different than what it was back in the 1800s. But nevertheless, the information is trusted, vetted, and sourced. So I advise you guys to check that out. All right, let's go back to our space weather station. Talk about TCI, which is the reading at the very top of your screen. That's Thermosphere Climate Index. That is nearing a space age record as well at 2.86, holding steady. The record is 2.05, and that was set back in February of 2009, the last minimum that we had. Also to note, it was one of the weakest solar minimums that we had in 150 years plus, and they are now predicting this one to be even weaker in the last 200 years. So correlation, you can connect the dots, folks. There is a coronal hole that we're looking at right now at the very center of the disk. Very small, nothing to be really concerned about. Solar wind is expected by December 31st. We're talking maybe upper 400s, maybe low 500 kilometers per second, but nothing that's going to create any kind of geomagnetic storm. In fact, 0 is the KP right now, 1 is the 24-hour max. I'm going to go ahead and call it. Let's just say a 6.0 to 6.5 here in the next 24 to 36 hours with the KP at its current situation, and there is an Earth-facing coronal hole. It is small, but if you look at the large scale of things, it is directly Earth-facing, and usually, and this is almost accurate every time that we see this, but usually when we have, and this is the still image of the star right now, that is an Earth-facing coronal hole, almost exactly, if you could picture where the Earth would be on the sun, that's exactly the position, just about dead on. So this coronal hole is square peg on. Now it's very small, so it's not going to be nothing strong. However, I believe something like this is enough to ping the magnetic field. And with the KP at 0 and at 1, 24-hour max, this is always the right kind of conditions to see something like a 6.0 or a 6.5 within the next 24 to 36 hours. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a look at some headlines, folks. Lots of news to talk about. First, I wanted to start over at SPACEWEATHER.com. Yesterday, December 26th, the moon passed in front of the sun, transforming the Middle Eastern sun into a ring of fire. It was very cloudy, says Ahmad. This was an extremely lucky shot. Though through a brief gap at a cloud cover, the ring of fire was amazing. So that is a very lucky shot. Talking about being at the right place at the right time. Looking at this sky right here, guys, that tells me there was a lot of cloud coverage going on right there. So amazing footage from Asia to the Middle East. You guys got to witness this. The sunrises, some of these sunrise pictures are outstanding, but I wanted to bring this up because of just, you know, what a time to be alive. What a time that we have all this technology to monitor these phenomena, these anomalies that are happening. So again, just breathtaking stuff here, and I wanted to bring it up before we got started in tonight's program. All right, but the first story I want to lead off with tonight is the 2019 harvest of historic one after months of severe crop damage in North Dakota. I mentioned the last episode, the last nightly show we did, that North Dakota, most of the state of North Dakota is waiting to harvest some of their corn crops right now because of how much moisture is on the crops now. And we're also talking about a major winter storm moving through that area as well. That's not going to help the moisture content of the crops. So tonight, what makes the 2019 crop historic is a bunch of damage, basically. On top of that, as much as 24 inches of snow fell in an early autumn snowstorm. In quotes here, I don't know of an event that has impacted the state of North Dakota and northwestern Minnesota as much as this has, as far as financial loss, crop losses, and stress on farmers, says Brad Brummond, the Walsh County Extension agent. We've left a significant amount of corn and beans in the field. We left some of our potatoes and sugar beets. 2019 harvest was the struggle from August on, with wheat farmers putting tracks on their combines and parking grain carts on the side of the road in effort to get the crop off. Despite the farmers' best efforts, 750,000 acres, of the 6.5 million acres of spring wheat was not harvested. So roughly almost 1 million acres, almost a fifth of the crop was not harvested. And sorry if my math is off by a little bit, which means that an estimated 36 million bushels of crop didn't make it into the bin. The harvest struggle continued with row crops as edible bean and soybean canola farmers were challenged by wet conditions. Sugar beet farmers buried beet litters. Potato farmers pulled truck, and ranchers used manure spread to haul loads of silage in efforts to get crops out of the field. After a 6-week battle of the violent weather, of course, the weather won. A freeze in early November destroyed potatoes and sugar beets. A total of 1/3 of about 115,000 acres of sugar beets that farmers grow for American Crystal Sugar Company were not harvested. Red River Valley potato farmers also suffered big loss of massive amounts of fresh seed. Processing and chipping potatoes were left in the field to rot. And I'll tell you, I helped Mari a little bit with Christmas dinner. My job was to peel potatoes, and these were some of the dinkiest potatoes I ever seen in my life. I don't know what happened to getting, baked potatoes that you could actually, eat as a serving. These things were small. Even the ones that you make for other things for potatoes, these were pretty small. So it's apparent that the potato crops definitely have been affected for sure. And we've seen shortages of green beans and fresh peas last August. If you guys remember that, I know Walmart's and some of the Kroger chain grocery stores as well had shortages of sweet peas and fresh green beans. Corn also fell victim to the wet weather and fall snowstorm, with most of the crops planted in this spring still in the field as 2019 comes to an end. The bottom line is the effect the miserable harvest will have on the finances of the region's businesses. Agriculture is one of the biggest drivers of the economy, and the reduction in farmers' incomes likely will be felt in small towns and major city businesses alike, said the West Central Tribune. Even bigger than the economics hit farmers are taking is the emotional hit from the stress of trying to get the crop out, then being forced to leave hundreds of acres unharvested. Community neighbors, friends, clergy, and mental health professionals are empathetic to the farmer situation and are reaching out to them. While farmers will be glad to leave 2019 behind them, it likely won't be forgotten for decades to come. Now, if 2020 is supposed to be equal, at least, to what we had in the spring of 2019, then you can expect a lot more acres left in the fields this time next year. Double that number, in my opinion. It will be significant. So what are the chances of that happening, and what can you do about it? There's a great channel called Millennial Farmer, and he's talking about planting more 92-day corn this spring. Probably a wise thing to do. But the summers are getting shorter. And what I just announced to you guys at the beginning of the show, after January 5th, we begin to move away from the sun. We are going to be at our closest approach on the 5th and pull away after that. So if we have increased cosmic rays, we have, on top of the fact that low solar activity, cloud nucleation, or moisture already causes a cooling effect. Now we're going to have to deal with our approach away from the sun that will be further away as we get into months that should be warmer. A lot of things to take into consideration to how much cooling that we're going to actually see next year, along with damaged crops from weather, flooding, snow, rain, heavy amounts of it. And listen, these tractors get stuck. That's time and money. Several videos I've watched with Millennial Farmer. A lot of time spent already maintaining this machinery, folks, to do the harvesting. And in these conditions, and I know our friend Matt, they got done before Thanksgiving. He told me that he was going to be surprised if they got it done. And he's in the southern part of Nebraska, near central Nebraska, but southern. So some farmers were okay, and some had other challenges. But for North Dakota, Minnesota, parts of Wisconsin, South Dakota, I'm afraid that we're going to see more of the same next year, if not worse. So concerning, and something that needs to be put attention to. areas. I saw someone in the chat before the show started saying that there was over 4 million unplanted acres in North Dakota, and I think they were the leaders in that stat category. So, very unfortunate situation, and like I said, I'll go over the storm that we're going to be expecting in that region anyway. Actually, let's go over it now. Powerful winter storm in the Four Corners. This is Winter Storm Gage. The Weather Channel has named it Gage. A potential shortwave trough situated over the desert southwest. Friday morning will support a surface low-pressure system that will track eastward into the western high plains by Saturday morning. According to National Weather Service forecaster Hamrick noted, the low is expected to develop further as it lifts towards the northeast through early Sunday and become a powerful winter storm from eastern Colorado to Minnesota. And as you guys can see right now, that the eastern parts of North Dakota will get bombarded by snow. Western Nebraska, central South Dakota, and western Minnesota, and then rain in front of that. We'll go over that in the GFS outlook, though. The low is expected to develop further as it lifts towards the northeast through early Sunday and become a powerful winter storm from the eastern Colorado to Minnesota. Winter storm watch is now in effect across these areas with a potential of 6 to 12 inches of wind-blown snow over northern Nebraska to southern North Dakota. Blizzard conditions are likely for some areas. Heavy snow is expected for the central Rockies. Also, potential exists for significant ice. Could see about 1/4 of an inch of ice in some of these areas. Mainly rain is expected farther east in the warm sector of the storm, with rainfall up to 1 inch possible across parts of the Midwest. I want to point out, too, that there are areas of Minnesota, South Dakota that are being looked at right now for a possibility of 2 to 3 feet of snow, 20 to 30 inches of snow. So this storm across the Midwest is going to be a doozy. And as it's now getting underway, we will continue to monitor that storm. But that we'll talk about as well at the end of our broadcast when we do the outlook here. And I wanted to mention the issues that we're having in Southern California. Heavy rains, flooding, and heavy snow are hitting much of Southern California on Thursday morning. This was yesterday's news. But remember, I told you guys it was hard to find anything about the severe weather mentions in the first place. But it says here, according to the National Weather Service, Los Angeles County could see up to 2 inches of rain between winds of 25 and 55 miles per hour. Rainfall totals in proportions of Orange County have already exceeded 2 inches of rain. We had snowfall in the higher elevations. I mean, guys, I had to dig to find this. We got snowfall, severe weather, heavy rains, high winds, Southern California, power outages in the 50,000 range, somewhere between 24 and 50,000 without power. Most of that's been restored. But I mean, nobody's mentioned this. Nobody. So I had to find it on a website that I'm not really crazy about. Actually, LAist, whatever that is. It's got one of those Guardian tip jars at the bottom. It almost looks identical to the Guardian, if you ask me. Okay, so anyway, weather is getting kooky all over the place. Another year and still no increase in severe U.S. tornadoes. You're thinking, well, I remember the May tornado outbreak. Yes, but we're talking about EF4s and EF5s. Remember, Al Gore and company predicted of severe hurricanes this year. Remember how we were going to see more severe hurricanes? How many major hurricanes did we have this year that hit U.S. territory or the United States? And really, we can only say Dorian. Yes, we've had a couple of minor storms make landfall, and some flooding did occur, South Charleston. But we weren't nowhere near the devastation of what Dorian did to the Bahamas. And on top of that, we didn't see any other major landfalls in the United States. Period. But here, what's up with that? They're pointing this out as well. Climate scientists love to blame every bad weather event on global warming, yet we never hear them cite climate change for the relative absence of bad weather. One such example are tornadoes in the U.S., where we now have several decades of carefully collated data. With the year near an end, we know that the number of tornadoes have been above average this year, though well below 2008 and 2011. Primarily, this is due to several outbreaks in February and April. Data since September is still provisional, so it is too soon to do a full analysis, but what we can safely say is that there have been no EF5 tornadoes this year, the strongest category. Now, this extends the period without an EF5 to 6 years now. The last one being in Moore, Oklahoma in May of 2013. By the way, that was during a solar max, near its max. There's only been one longer period without an EF5, and that was from 2000 to 2006. It's also abundantly clear that powerful tornadoes were much more common in the 70s. And anybody who's from Xenia, Ohio, 1974, will tell you the horror they saw from that tornado. The small numbers of EF5 make estimations of trends difficult, but such trends are clear with EF4s. Provisionally, there have been 3 this year. Check this out. Montgomery County, Ohio, that's Dayton. Yeah, that was an EF4 that hit Dayton, Ohio. I mean, what a year, folks. I'm from that area. I grew up in Xenia. I've lived in Dayton. And as a Daytonian, you know that the possibility of a tornado hitting any part of downtown or anywhere near Dayton was just understood as not scientifically possible because of the location, the landscape. Dayton was just not the area where it's going to get hit with a tornado, and it did. It got smacked in several areas of Dayton, North Dayton, some parts of East Dayton, Riverside, which is just outside of East Dayton, Ohio. EF4 tornado. Lee County, Alabama had an EF4 tornado, and Leavenworth County in Kansas in May had an EF4. So we had a mini tornado outbreak in the late part of May this past year. And we had 3 EF4s this year, and only 2 of them came out of that major outbreak. So global warming people like to tell you that the number of tornadoes are going to continue to go up because of man-made climate change. Guys, look at this graph. I mean, look, this is trends. Peak, peak. You do a line from here to here, it's going down. Look at even in between. I mean, I can do 2 lines that go down in this, from the peak and the filler. Let's call it filler. We get a little one. So listen, global warming is failing, and it's failing fast right in front of everyone's eyes. Thanks to websites like What's Up With That for coming up with these articles to show us that the severe tornadoes are not on the uptick like Al Gore and company are telling you. Here's the chart. Here's the data right here, guys. See it for yourself. It's actually declining. Yeah, we've had a little bit of an uptick this year, but again, nowhere near what we saw in the 74 outbreak. All right, so let's talk about this storm that we're expecting right now, Winter Storm Gage. Here's your winter weather alerts. Nebraska, the northwestern parts of Nebraska, most of South Dakota, and the eastern and southeast portions of North Dakota. Also, northwest Minnesota is in the path of this major storm. It could bring blizzard-like conditions. Snow falling tonight into Saturday, and then finally lifting up into the northern plains, upper Midwest, bringing all rain here to the northeast and the Ohio Valley. Forecast through Monday. Look, there's areas that are expecting 12 to 18 inches of snow. Some localized areas possibly could see 18 to 20 inches of snow. That map has actually shrunk since the last time. Also, on top of the foot of snow, Sioux Falls could be seeing a decent ice event as well. Also, just north of Kearney, Nebraska, or Kearney, I should say, Nebraska, we are in a good chance for ice up to 1/4 of an inch, and that's through Sunday as well. And then Monday, the back end of the storm, well, the cold air follows behind it. We get some freezing rain and ice in the upstate New York region. And by the time that makes the transition, they're thinking we could see around 3 to 6 inches of snow in upstate New York, parts of Vermont, heavier amounts of snow in New Hampshire, Maine as well, near Portland, Maine. Boston right now, if you do get any snow accumulation, it's going to be very minor at this point. So, all right, let's take a look at the current radar that's expired, and we'll refresh that and fix it, zoom it out, do all that good stuff on the live show, you know, my favorite. There's where our storm is, Winter Storm Gage. And it's really getting its act together right now, moving through the Four Corner states, through the state of Colorado, and really starting to pick up here in parts of western Nebraska. Talking to Matt just a little bit ago, he said he got some sleet earlier. That is tracking eastward now. And yeah, it looks like you're out of the woods as far as any kind of major weather or snow event, but this storm is just now getting underway, and it's making its sweet old time up into the northern part of Nebraska and now penetrating the Nebraska-South Dakota state line at this moment. Here is a look at our watches and warnings right now, and of that winter storm warning for northwestern Nebraska. Right now, it's just a winter weather storm watch right now, a storm watch in South Dakota, North Dakota, and in also western parts of Minnesota. But I have a feeling that will change into a warning here within the next 8 hours, if not sooner than that. All right, let's take a look and see what GFS has in store for us in the next few days. Cold air, it's, Joe Bastardi came up with the ridge and then the fridge. That's going to happen a couple of times before we finally start to see some major winter action. And I've said this now for the past couple of days. Patterns are showing that the northern plains, the upper Midwest, and the Northeast are going to be the main recipients. BC, Canada, yes, you'll get some snow too, but those are going to be the concentrated areas for the winter weather precipitation. And then the Arctic cold blast you're going to see in the northern plains, the upper Midwest, and even portions of the Northeast as well. So right now, the coldest part of the United States is going to be in the north and the Northeast. Not saying that we won't see shots of cold air and snow throughout the winter, but at least to start January off, it's going to be active up in this part of the country. So here we are tomorrow morning. This storm clears out, and then we have another system. By the time it gets all the way out here to the Northeast, it starts as ice, then goes all rain. Snow kind of lingers on for a little while in the upper Midwest through Monday, and then much colder air behind the storm system. And that's where the Northeast finally gets back to winter. We've seen some pretty mild days out here. Snow's been melting, a lot of rain, but that cold air is back. Lake effect for Buffalo, Erie, PA, Cleveland, Ohio. Light snow showers for the Northeast. Maine will get hit with more snow from this system that's moving through the Midwest right now. And then the northern plains gets fired up with some snow moving across the Rockies and then dying out by the time it gets to Nebraska and Kansas. But watching the Northeast here, here's January 3rd. And we got a pretty decent snow system moving through the Northeast. And again, on the 4th, it tapers off. And then more snow behind that by the time we get to January 6th. And this is a period of time where now we start to see not only are we getting into that colder Arctic air, but now this is where the Earth is now making its pull away from the sun. And it won't be at its closest approach January 6th. Snow in the forecast, more snow in the forecast for the 7th. More snow in the forecast in the Northeast, and just lots of cold air. And then we've got this behemoth of a system around January 9th. And I've been saying this now for a few days, but the second week of January, anywhere from the 10th through the 20th, we'll start to see a lot colder air and a lot more snow precipitation for sure. And here is a major winter storm that GFS is signaling to. Now it starts as snow, and then it's going to ride a ridge into the Northeast. So Ohio, you'll start as a major snowstorm, and then could have as much of it melted with the rain. But by the time this system moves through on January 10th, it's bringing much colder air behind it. This cold air front goes all the way down the Southwest through the Northeast, and by January 11th, that could turn back into snow. So this system is going to bring snow, rain, snow, and much colder air after it. And this is a part of month where I kind of expected to see things starting to get cold. And here's your temperatures. As you see, that Arctic blast is trying to make its way in the lower 48. Let me move this back a little bit. Let's start right here. We got a couple different warm, mild periods. Here's one right here, this ridge moving toward the East Coast. This is for Monday into the weekend. So one more good weekend of 2019, not bad. But then January 1st comes in cold for the top half of the United States. And not much warming going on after the first. One more minor ridging to happen here on January 4th into the 5th. But that Arctic cold air is no match for that ridge. And wow, look at how much this expands here on January 5th. This is supposed to be the day that we're at the closest approach to the sun. But look at how much cold air is being filtered in from the Arctic. And look at us by the 7th. Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. You guys are going to be at ice chest. Negative 33 degrees Fahrenheit. Like these are daytime, those are nighttime lows. Daytime highs negative 26. Negative 31 Wednesday, January 8th. Daytime highs into negative 17. Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, watch out. Upper Midwest and the Northeast. Well, that's later on in January, on the 7th. Here we are on the 8th. It's starting to build in upstate New York now. Still cold in the upper Midwest and the Northern Plains. And now we see more cold spreading in the Northeast, upstate New York. Still maintaining its grip in the upper plain states. Wow. Through January 10th. A little quick, brief ridging. And then look at what we're looking at here by January 11th. Some pretty cold stuff, folks. It is January, but still, nonetheless, these are daytime highs. So we've got some colder weather. We've got a lot of factors that are coming. And guys, this is without the effects of any kind of volcano or earthquake or anything like that. So I can't imagine if we get a big volcanic eruption in between all of this developing cold that we're seeing here in North America as well. So, all right, Mari, did you want to say hello to everybody? I think I've pretty much got everything that I needed to get in tonight.
Oh, let's see. Knife Collector popped in and said, if you have not signed up for the GSM forum, please do. We want to grow it. So Knife Collector is my ambassador for the GSM forums on thegrandsolarminimum.com. It's all user participation to get that forum going, so definitely join. I'll be on there this week. I had some time off for Christmas, but I'm back, I promise. I'll make Knife Collector a mod on the group forums for being such a great ambassador and sticking with it. Jesse, I'd like to say hello, and I hope your mom is feeling better. I did not ask you in the chat. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. And then we got Doug in here. He did not get his bikini for Christmas. I'm sorry. There was someone named Cookie that popped in the chat. That name is dangerous with this crowd. Be careful.
Yeah.
Everyone likes their baked goods.
Mari still hasn't sent out the cookies.
Well, I did.
Hello, Doug.
They got intercepted by the postman, didn't they, Jake?
I didn't know there was a postman in the email.
Marie Mitchell says, hiya, from Iowa. I'm just wanting the rain, waiting for the rain and snow/sleet to start. She has a load of firewood and is ready to go in case they lose power. So it's great to hear from all you guys. I'm sorry I had to step away for a little bit. The doggy got into the trash. You know, fun times. Why not when we go live for timing? We're not looking, right?
Guys, I totally dropped the ball on this too. And just after the storms that we just had in Southern California, we have another system to watch starting on Monday. By the way, I did want to mention that. So more wacky weather here in Southern California. Yes, that's snow in Southern California once again. Another low pressure system just spilling down the west coast. And that almost tends to be a tradition here over the next several weeks. The pattern remains the same, folks, looking at this moving ahead. So interesting weather patterns also forming. Go ahead, Mari. Sorry about that.
I don't even
I didn't want to leave the West Coast out.
No, they get very upset when you do that.
Oh, especially the Northwest.
No, the Northwest.
In the Northwest, they get all fiery and pissy.
Needs lots of attention. So, I hope you gave them enough. We'll see. But we're going to be back on even tomorrow with a little morning update, aren't we, Dave?
Yep.
So, and I am working on
lots going on.
I'm working on some end of year videos, sort of overviewing and going over stuff. So I know you guys love your Mari videos, so you will have a couple coming up. I'm not sure exactly when. I'm hoping to have one out for Sunday, so we'll see.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much, Mari, and thank you for everyone who tuned in tonight. We appreciate your support as always. We will be back tomorrow with another update of the Grand Solar Minimum News channel. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we will talk soon, guys. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.